Hi, fellow Inklings. Welcome to the Eagle and Child. Metaphorically speaking, of course. This week's post is a lot about the use of metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that describes something by stating it as something else. For example, the world is a stage, or my office is the Eagle and Child. That is metaphorically stating that my office is a famous pub where the Inklings, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and others, met to convey a shared quality, such as intellectual fellowship and shared curiosity. Keep that in mind as we step into one of the most emotionally charged and fear-filled topics in all of Christianity, hell. Before I ever studied Greek or Hebrew, and before I questioned translations or church history, my understanding of hell came to me the way it does for most of us, as a story. I remember being a kid, listening to my older brother try to explain what hell was like. He told me to imagine touching a red-hot stovetop burner. The pain is instant and unbearable. Then he said, now imagine being placed on a burner large enough for your entire body, never able to escape, with the pain of that first moment never lessening. That, he said, was hell. That image stayed with me for years. It shaped how I saw God, how I saw myself, and how I basically understood my faith. This belief slowly became less about love and more about fear. Salvation to me, honestly, was fire insurance. Years later, when my oldest son told me he could no longer believe in Christianity, that he had become an atheist, this was the issue that troubled him the most. Really? A God of infinite love would torture people forever without any redemptive hope? And I have to admit, at a gut level, that doesn't make sense to me either. But something within me was afraid to question what had been programmed into me from the time I was a child. So in this post, let's relax, slow way down, and ask a simple question. What does the Bible actually say about hell? Now, I got to tell you, as a Protestant, and even growing up evangelical, Scripture still matters to me. Not what we have heard, not what art, sermons, and fear-shaped imaginations taught us, but what does Scripture itself say? When you look closely, something surprising emerges. The Bible does not use one word for hell. For the most part, it uses three words. In the Old Testament, the word is Sheol. Sheol simply meant the realm of the dead, the grave. Both the righteous and the unrighteous went there. It was not a place of punishment or torture. It was a place of waiting, of rest, of silence, awaiting God's future action. And then when the New Testament was written in Greek, Sheol was translated as Hades. Hades basically carries the same meaning. It's a temporary and transitional place. It's not an eternal destination. Even when Jesus uses Hades in the parables, like in the story of Lazarus, it's never presented as final or beyond hope within Jewish understanding and culture. Then there's the word Jesus almost always uses, Gehenna. Gehenna was not an afterlife destination. It was an actual place just outside the gates of Jerusalem. It was a garbage dump, seriously, a place of decay, burning trash. It represented complete ruin. It's set outside the safety of the city walls. So when Jesus warned about Gehenna, he was not giving a geography lesson about the afterlife. He was using a vivid, real-world image his listeners knew well. Heck, they would walk right by this burning and smelly trash. He was warning about what happens when people choose paths of destruction in this lifetime. Choosing a life of sin is Gehenna, hell. It was a metaphor. In other words, Jesus was not threatening eternal torture. He was issuing an urgent call to transformation here and now on earth as it is in heaven. This post is not about pretending that sin does not matter. It is about asking whether fear-based theology has distorted the character of God and whether Jesus actually preached eternal torture or something very different. Jesus preached about forgiving 70 times 7, symbolizing infinite forgiveness. He preached about forgiving your enemies and about turning the other cheek when someone slaps you. So does a God of infinite love require a violent, bloody death in order to forgive? That's a hard conclusion. If you've ever wrestled with hell or felt that fear shaped your faith more than love, I invite you to take your time on this one. You're not losing your faith by asking these questions. In fact, you may be recovering it.